Hello and welcome to a very special pre-recorded one-on-one stream here for Dying of Exposure, Dying of Exsanguination, Curse of Strahd. I am joined by one of my, of course, favorite people, Betty Buzzsaw, player of Belladonna. How are we doing today?
Blessed day today.
Jeez, blessed day today. I only see that through the lens of deep Christianity.
You
As
can unpack it however you want. That's kind of how the how it goes.
how it
Go for the
goes,
gist.
we are, or due to not being available for normal regular streams for the next couple weeks, I decided to do some one-on-one stuff with all of my wonderful players. So this is the first of several of them, and we are going to just dive right into not where we are currently in the campaign, but we're gonna say roughly about 6 months, no, closer to a year before the events of the campaign. Um, we are in outside of the village of Barovia, still in Barovia, and we open up to a scene in what is closest to be presumed as a Barovian fully like matching spring. Spring in Barovia is still very rainy and wet and can be pretty sleety. But this day feels sunny. This day feels bright. And this day has very much like one of those forgettable bits of memory and time. Just another relatively all right morning so far. It would be around respectively 10 in the morning or so, 10, 11 in the morning. Can we talk about where we would find Belladonna on an average day roughly a year ago?
Roughly a year ago, 10, 11 a.m., you said?
Yeah.
So it'd be post breakfast, 10, 11 a.m. She would probably just be out checking on the orchards. She doesn't tend the orchards, but she would be going to check on the people who do tend the orchards and get an just idea of what's going on with the crop today, the harvest, spring, right?
Yes, it
So
is spring. It is
we're waiting for
canonically,
those fruits to flower.
yeah, canonically around the same semblance of springtime that we experience here. We were recording this literally the day before May 1st. So it's in the village of Barovia, and Barovia in general has, centuries past having regular holiday celebrations and traditions. The monotony and tragedy and curse has broken that sort of like unified spirit. But spring still comes. Animals still, or flowers still bloom. Animals still mate. Um, uh, uh, there are less days covered in snow and more days where people can be outside, and joy can be found in terrible times. Uh, uh, I would say that as you check, you can see that the earliest of sort of like of fruiting trees is beginning to prep. It's not so much collection quite yet in the season, so much as pruning and cutting away and making sure that everything that will
Mhm.
bloom, everything that will fruit, will be doing so effectively over the next couple months.
Yeah.
You're a meadery. You have lots of different options for
Yeah,
flavored
and
meats.
as the beekeeper, she would be very interested in the fruiting stage specifically, or the flowering stage specifically, not the fruiting. So
Yeah, and so
she wants to know if it's time to get her pollinators out there.
uh, your staff is a hard word to say. There's not a lot of need for, strangely enough, money in this cursed place because, as we've discussed in the campaign before, there's plenty of room, there's plenty of empty houses, there's plenty of like leftover clothes and materials, so people aren't need for much. but they do need spaces, and everyone needs to contribute to those spaces being able to operate. But it's not quite volunteers either. It's more just community of
Yeah.
the people that have come to collect under Belladonna. Uh, it's all ages too. There's some younger children doing what they can, picking up detritus around things, weeding to make sure that there's not too much going on around any of the trees or copses of trees, so that they are able to draw as healthily as they can. Um, Adults of all ages kind of working through, enthusiastic that they're contributing to what will be their evening's events, which is mostly hanging out in the meadery or bringing items back. Uh, y- you, I think, before Belladonna hears the approach, you feel a hand that would normally shock you if it didn't land so confidently and repeatedly on the exact same spot, just above, being between your shoulder blades, just below the top of your neck, resting on your back, as a gentleman behind you lets you know of his presence, even if he happens to be deeply or deeply hard to clock, especially related to his size. As your fiance, husband,
At this point,
partner,
it would be husband. They
husband,
got married at the very beginning of spring,
husband,
before they would be busy. Yeah, husband.
uh, rests his hand there confidently, wordlessly, and you can turn and find him behind you. Belladonna, would you please describe James Percy Thompson?
Hey, James Percy Thompson is a half elf, a little over 6 foot tall, and uh, not quite what you would necessarily expect for a half elf. He is very broad in the shoulder. The features are lean, high cheeks. The ears are clockable, but other than that, very dark features, a grim jaw and brow, a lot of facial hair, like a classic turn of the century strongman mutton chop, and well kept at the sides, but you can tell that it's a thick and manly mane of hair, hard to contain, chopped around at the shoulders where it is convenient and easy to chop. Um, and he has a certain gravity to him in his silence, just standing there,
Mm-hmm.
typically.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Under his perceptively, for most people, flat look is the subtle left lip turn of a smile. Um, a face that anyone else would say is looking plainly at you, but you've come to learn is just more compressed in its expression. James, before saying anything, just lifts up a small bottle of oil, corked, and offers it to you. This happens 5 out of every 7 days of the week when you forget to do anything with your hair. And he provides you product to make sure that it's not a tangled mess by the end of the night. Just some simple oils, as what modern times would refer to as leave-in conditioner, but is just a concoction of your own. You're the one who understands how to make it and that it is necessary, but not necessarily the one that remembers to use it most days.
Yeah, I probably put it in the tiny bottles so that I'd remember to use it because that'd be so convenient. And I
Yeah.
got the tiny bottles from the nice merchant who said that the tiny bottles would organize my life. And I believed it, and I bought the tiny bottles, and I put the oil in the tiny bottles. But I did not bring that tiny bottle with me today.
Yeah, and so he hands it off to you kind of wordlessly. Give me a perception or insight check on him currently.
Uh, I will do insight. Ooh, adjusted 20.
He is wearing his kind of standard attire for the public. Sort of like a raised collar shirt, not like a collared shirt, but like the kind of more classic, just simply tabbed up raised collar shirt, like a burgundy with like a black vest over it. Um, uh, Even though you and probably him could adjust his sleeves to fit him, he still is of the habit of wearing those 19th century armband cuffs to tuck up the bunch of the sleeves behind them, making him all the more look like the bartender that you've met. Um, uh, uh, a character drawn of a story. Um, uh, and he is in his cleaner, more well-fitted trousers, and has his face, mutton chops still very large, but the rest of his face has been recently shorn. You need to know that, um, uh, or you know that, Belladonna. This means that he is going to be leaving in the near future, and he, as always, waits for you to speak first when he makes eye contact with you.
I think we probably do the usual game of chicken,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm going to wait for him to speak first. It never works. I don't think a single time it's ever worked, but Belladonna does try to wait and make him ask why she looks confused. And she finally breaks. I do not recall you letting me know that you were leaving town for a while. And I am wondering if that is because I am prone to forgetting things or you have not let me know.
He glances off to the right briefly and then returns to eye contact. In the level of light that happens now, it's got the very kind of like grayish eyes to his tone. It's always been interesting because James doesn't look like an elf from storybooks and isn't from Barovia. But if you had to pick, with him being a half elf, you'd be like, oh, he looks like he's mixed with one of the like one of the local elven tribe, the only remaining elves in Barovia, but he has no connection to them. And you know the moment the words come out of his mouth, because he lacks the accent. He just goes, I am sorry, Bug. I received a letter from the barony in Vallaki, and I need to apparently make an appearance again.
An appearance at the barony
Mm,
for what purpose? They have summoned you?
apparently, one of my pieces has become popular again, and as you recall, some people do not appreciate the tone of some of my less poetic and longer winded prose.
Well, the intention, if I recall, was not for people to enjoy them. Not all prose are supposed to be, you know, you know very well. I do not need to explain to you.
Uh, yes, I have to explain again that when I write about correcting, he kind of clenches his jaw a little bit and then he takes a slow breath. I have to lie to them again that I am not simply asking for the general population to overthrow the cowardly leadership of the various communities here in Barovia so that we can do something about that, and gestures to what is currently in view off in the kind of northwest, quite far off, the castle Ravenloft and the Devil Strahd, where he resides. And James continues. So I will lie to them again and tell them that my fiction is purely that, and if their citizens infer things that I did not intend, of course I won't. And on the way, I will write several glowing prose about the bold leaders that happen to aesthetically match the people that I am explaining myself to, uh, as proof that it's simply fiction.
I think, perhaps, my dear, if nothing else, I think it is proof that none of it is fiction. You are acting it out right before them. You are writing the very story by acting it out in front of their very eyes. I do not understand how they do not see it.
I mean, they see it, but they need to be able to say that they didn't. They need to be able to say the same cowardice that prevents them from action also prevents them from action in other directions. A popular.
Well, I think it's more that they realize how foolish it makes them look.
Does.
But they do not realize how much more foolish it makes them look to double down, so to speak.
I had a friend who ran a crew who did not like being perceived in a way that he disliked or didn't think was correct, and he would complain about it constantly. And eventually, all of us started talking about how Master Streisand was only stoking the fires of people doing exactly what he did not want them to do. And I feel like wherever I go, there are many people in that situation. And for some reason, they're the people that oftentimes have control of things.
It seems as though people do not realize the more that they resent defiance, the more they breathe it into people. The more you try to crush it from people, the more you squeeze out of them.
They don't, but
They
unfortunately,
don't look out and see that the people here of Barovia are very hardworking. We are good people. We are willing to labor for our community, and I do not understand why they seek to dominate people already willing.
what I can tell you is that this is not unique to Barovia. And so I too don't understand it, but we could complain about this to each other and our own agreement with each other for quite some time. Uh, I wanted to know if you wanted to or would be able to join me on this trip or not.
I believe I should be able to. I have been told that the flowers are not quite yet ready, and neither are my bees. Another few weeks. It is beautiful, yes, but not yet warm. It has taken very long this spring for the sun to burn anything through those clouds. So I should not be needed here for some time.
then, and you will hopefully forgive me for my boldness, I have already packed several of your traveling trunks so that if you wanted to join me, you would not have to worry about that.
You mean so that we would leave before your meeting was over, lest I not be able to figure out what to bring with us. And that is okay, and I appreciate it,
I
because it's very true.
he he fully smiles at this. I am so grateful every night that I have someone that is aware of the things that would make their life easier. Um, yes, shall we? And he doesn't wait for you to do anything or say anything. He just picks you up and like princess carries you back toward there.
Of
Not
course.
not with the sort of like smirking grin of
No,
someone that's
I'm
being playful.
seeing it. It's very efficient, isn't it? It's very, very like an actual fireman, just like, whoop,
Yeah, he just
this is
lifts
the
you up
quickest.
and takes you, and you've learned that that is how
Of
he
course.
prefers to travel with you. And you do head
I'm
out.
not complaining.
It takes a little bit longer than it probably needed to for you to actually leave. You of course have to inspect the trunks. He doesn't seem to mind the delay so much, depending on what's causing the delay, and uh, and uh, uh, he hooks up one of the trade carts to one of the mules and loads up the wagon, and you all head out on your way to the several days of travel that it will take for you all to get to Valaki. Um, uh, what do you think a normal, because this isn't the first time you two have traveled together. Everything always takes a handful of days to get to the next location, kind of thing. Barovia is not so populated that it has something at like every evening's normal travel. So there's outdoor camping. What do you think Belladonna's like and James's evening rhythm is at a campfire? Do you think that it's like what's the activity? What's the kind of like normal wind down for the day on traveling?
I think they probably, normal kind of tent setup. I think like a lot of couples that have been together for a long time, despite having not been together for a long time, their wind down routine is very simple and very natural. The setting down the stuff, popping up the tent, probably co-cooking over the campfire. Somebody is prepping vegetables while somebody gets the soup pot ready, and probably in mostly comfortable silence until they settle in to eat, and then have a conversation about anything interesting on the day's travels, maybe inside jokes, maybe if James Percy has written anything interesting, thoughts about his prose or lyrics or poetry.
This or living and existing with a man that is trained to task is extremely comfortable as long as one recognizes that that is the rhythm that he must operate on. James, when you discuss the like this person does the vegetable prep, this is how the tent gets set up, this is how the fire structures and everybody has their job. This is where, for someone that is so creative in written form, this man seems to crave consistency in all activity. Well, not all activity, but most activity for functioning through life. And I would think that, and so it becomes a bit surprising when, in rare form, Belladonna is the one that falls asleep first. Of course, you don't recognize this is happening as it's happening. James is one of those people, one of those men that has the irritating habit of being like, I'm tired and should go to sleep, and then is asleep with no waiting or no thinking whatsoever. Um, uh, uh,
It's
and
time to power off now.
yeah, and is very good at shutting down and resting. But in this time, he had written some observation about, uh, like, it was right at, like, crow sort of, like, not quite mating, but like collecting to mate. So, like, a denser amount of them in the trees in the woods, and they're flying around in their various patterns, from location to location. So, in the next few days,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get pretty heated, if you will, up in the sky. But but for now, it's just
Great
sort of
merch op. And just a bunch of crows getting heated in the
in
sky.
the sky. But until then, it's calm, and so it's surprising when Belladonna wakes up after having fallen asleep to a now smoldering, dying, embered fire. Wakes up to uh,
Why did I think you were gonna say my smoldering husband? I'm like, yeah, I did. Smoldering.
yeah, wakes up to James. Um, in the middle of the night, sitting there, and no perception check necessary because there's not a lot around to distract. You can see him sort of sitting on the ground, knees up, elbows at the knees, holding this letter, this missive, or what you assume must be it, because there's an envelope with a broken seal that has the Baron of Valaki's seal on it, and everything, holding it up and just like rereading it over and over again. Not really like, yeah, like it's got to be like 3 in the morning. And there's not really moonlight, but there is a little bit of moon reflection here, and there's just enough light in this darkness from the, like, kind of leftover or leavings of the flame to do it. And James is seemingly quite easily able to read in complete darkness. So he doesn't need much, but this is what you wake up to in the middle of the night. Your husband is sort of sitting and reading something when he should be
I
asleep.
think, yeah, I mean, I think she will go up behind him quietly, but not silently enough so that the her presence can fill the space, so as not to alarm him as he's, you know, the that same energy returned as he is wont to do before he puts his hand on her back. And she will do as she usually does when she often has to comfort him in times of stress or turmoil, and he's slouched over his desk or the fire reading something that has perplexed or perturbed him. And she'll place her hands on the tops of his shoulders and just smooth out, even if his shirt is not wrinkled, but the slight gesture of smoothing his shoulders, the shirt on his shoulders out. My love, you seem more perturbed than usual. This is not the first time, and I understand that it's never a good time. to go, but uh, I can sense that this is different.
He doesn't look back at you, but grabs one of your hands with a free hand kind of over his shoulder and then just sort of like tilts his head back a little bit and kind of with his other hand kind of like turns the letter down onto his leg casually and it is concerning a little bit that this is such an urgent request. The previous ones usually had a window for me to arrive. There'd be some sort of ceremony to it. This feels more like a summons command. And he goes, but I'm sure it will be fine, Bug. And I would love for you on that to roll an insight check with advantage.
18.
A man that doesn't use a lot of words is a great liar by default. And then a man that is combined with that to be very eloquent with words in written form or when he can prepare them is arguably dangerous at his ability to manipulate people with language. But you've been around James long enough. He doesn't use pet names with you. He uses the name he's allowed to call you. Typically, and that is pretty much only for him. Bug is not it. Bug is a pet name. He is smart, but not slick with this. I don't know if Belladonna's ever communicated to him that she knows this tell, but if he's using pet names, he's not being honest, even when it sounds like he is.
I know, I don't think she would have communicated that with him super directly. She probably would have dropped hints. And then if he doesn't pick up on his own tell, that sounds like a him problem. So, so I don't think he'd be aware of it necessarily, if he was still doing it. 3 a.m. I think at 3 a.m., especially, excuse me, pre-spellcaster, Belladonna would be up and awake now. She would start stoking the fire and getting it going again, not hustling and bustling with the same energy she might usually when she wakes up, realizes like, oh, it's daylight and I need to jettison out of bed to get my day going. But she'd start doing the sort of minutia of the morning activities in the slow way she is prone to do when one or either of them wakes up terribly early.
In not non-typical form, especially when he's not actively working on something, James doesn't inherently slide into any sort of participation into this. He almost seems fully distracted, even though he hasn't turned the letter back up. He's fully in his head. And let's a solid 30-45 minutes go in silence. If that lets there. Well, Belladonna sort of does the morning items and then goes, I am glad that you traveled with me all the way here, and I am glad that you could join me. But when we are in Vallaki, I think it would be best if I attended this audience without you in the building. You are muted. I apologize.
Sorry. Uh, and what, may I ask, is the reason? You know I will listen to you if you have a good reason, even if I do not necessarily agree or like it. But I fear your reason is simply concern for my safety, and I am not the one in danger.
Uh, you are
Think
correct.
how prone to do something silly and impulsive and dangerous I will be if I am stuck out here alone, not knowing when you are going to
Hmm.
be back.
I am so lucky to have someone so impassioned by their concern for me that they might be reckless over it. You're not wrong. I am concerned for you. I'm not concerned about what you'll do, but about what might be done when done depending on this conversation and how it breaks.
Realistically, do you think they would uh, capture or harm me to punish you or coerce you in some way?
I am worried that if they attempt to arrest me, you will try to stop them.
Well, then I'll get like a little arrested also, but not for like treason. And
Well,
then I'll get out, and then I'll help you get released for your treason, presumably.
it would be much better if you
Traitor.
wouldn't be the first time. And again, a little dip of his past that he doesn't talk about, like leaks into the conversation. Um, I think you probably narrowed down that he wasn't a very legally operating sailor, and that he probably was sailing or related to sailing or adjacent to sailing in some fashion, but he doesn't like to go into specifics about it, and he's so effusive about it that it's kind of an uphill battle to try and get any details out of him that don't just happen to come out of him. So it's been a long time learning that you're just going to get the bits and pieces when they come. But
And
he,
that's just fine.
it is so much more effective for the person trying to get a person out of jail to not be in jail themselves.
Okay, and I understand that. I think if you give me warning, we have plan. I am emotionally prepared. I probably don't cause scene. But I also am concerned that they will not be able to help you if I do not even know where they have taken you or why or under what authority.
Falaki is still it, organized
Do
enough
you
that
have any friends that will be there at the trial that can meet me afterwards should you not be able to?
I have people I can send your way. People that have written me letters. People that think that I'm one thing that I'm not, but their thought that I'm this thing makes them believe that these letters are necessary and is also exactly why I'm in this position. But yes, I
I
have people that I
understand.
can send to you. I want you in Velaki. Maybe this is nothing. Maybe I'm just going to do the same thing I've done for the last couple years. Have the few times that they've brought me out there. Once they figured out who I was, but I just want to make sure that you are not also swept up in it, so that if it is bad, you can save me.
And my love, I will wait. However long you ask me to wait, wherever you ask me to wait, as long as you promise me that someone, you or someone to bring me word, will be where you say they will be.
There is a small little shop where the owner of the shop crafts extremely petite figurines that take them days to carve, polish, paint, and treat so that time will not age them, even though they are made primarily of old, dense wood. The owner of the shop is named Maxwell. Um, and he has a wife who I think is named Maxine. They go by Max and Max.
That's
That would be
that's
where you would
adorable,
go.
actually.
It's very
Okay.
cute. They're delightful. But yes, that will be where I send someone for you. And you will have to forgive them because they will address you with eye contact.
Okay.
With eye contact as Bella. You'll have to give them the one forgiveness for it.
I can agree to that, given the dire circumstances.
It is too early in the morning for breakfast.
I've only put the kettle on for tea.
He
Do you like a sleepy tea or a morning tea?
he takes a small a small cloth rag, what have you, grabs it, takes the kettle off of the fire. I don't want tea.
Okay.
I don't plan to go to sleep, but I'd like to not head out for several hours. And to keep this uh, 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 moment there, James just sort of stands up, stretches a little bit, then curls back down, grabs Belladonna, scoops her into his arms, and moves into the tent with Belladonna for a bit. Never,
Sounds about right.
yeah,
That tracks.
never to the point eye contact. Eye contact. It's not really like a question as so much as it is a watching for sort of situation. But other than that, the day and travels continue to pass. His mood slips back to normalcy now that he is less worried about consequences for both of you. And the next couple days are uneventful in the way of like nothing unique comes between that camp location and arriving in Valaki. What is Belladonna's mood during this, knowing that they might be riding to her husband's, or newly husbanded husband's arrest?
I think, as she often does, traveling in intense situations, she probably makes a lot of idle chat. She'll read the tone of the room, obviously, but she probably just keeps him mildly entertained with idle chatter about various flora or fauna or interesting locations they're passing, uh, or be very yes and interested in anything he decides to discuss if he's read anything interesting or is writing anything of interest. But mid tone, not
Middle
try to force it to be too light, not try to force him to talk about anything in particular, but also not let it sit in a weird,
mm,
tense silence that brings foreboding on several days of travel.
is internally. Does Belladonna is Belladonna the type of person in this time to compartmentalize a little bit and put something that they have no control over off to the side and not worry about it? Or are they and focus on like the work of just being present in the travel and in the moment? Or is Belladonna like internally screaming and doing their best just not to let that out?
I think generally, despite a lot of her proclivities and neurodivergencies and peculiarities, she does not experience a lot of anxiety in general. And she is not experiencing a, a lot of anxiety or worry right now. She has this world view of things being kind of just the way that they are, in a practical sense, and so control over it doesn't really factor into like her mood, I guess. She just has whatever control over it she has, and she works with that approach, and it doesn't occur to her to worry about it, I don't think. So she's just kind of idly planning. Think more than anything affecting her mood would be just seeing how much it's weighing on James Percy.
James,
I think that's the closest thing to worry or
mm,
anxiety she experiences is discomfort with the uncertainty of his emotional state.
he's he's still hard to read, even for you at times. But I think you can trust that he is a man that is in the same vein as Belladonna mentally. There are things that can't be controlled. Worrying about them or like rolling them in your mind when you can do nothing about them does nothing. And his earlier unease at the beginning before your conversation was more about the conversation than the event that he was or that you all are writing toward. So now it's put in a box and it's there and it's on the side and he will open the box again when he does it. So he's acting very normally as you talk to him. He's lightly jotting down notes. I think you found it incredibly. At first, it's not always apparent if he's listening, even if he is writing, because you're never really sure if he's writing something separately from what you're talking about until you've gotten to enough of his
Yeah.
his 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 words, and you realize that he is paying attention because his poetry includes things that you are sure he learned from you, because there is literally no way this man ever had any interest in that subject before he met you. Um, to a irritating amount of detail at times when you're frustrated with him, but otherwise a very endearing amount of detail generally. Um,
It's only irritating in that it's a mirror of exactly how much detail I exposited at him at length at some time before he wrote that poem.
you do find that while you travel, he'll discuss what he's reading or what he's working on, but that one of his kinder aspects is that he would like you to talk most of the time. And he will keep you talking when you seem to be in the moment for it. And so as you are doing that, the conversation becomes very much very much this. He asks one follow-up question, 5 to 10 more minutes of uninterrupted information about that. He asks another follow-up question, and again, this would seem one-sided most of the time, and it is until something has caught his interest that comes from him, and then it is the absolute opposite. He cannot help. He found an old book one time, most specifically, that he, from wherever he's from, could not find anymore. All copies were gone, and yet it was in some house abandoned in Barovia, in the village of Barovia, and it was just a handed off bit of book, and then you learned deeply about every aspect of that author's life, publication, and everything. But that for him is like a once a week thing, and then otherwise he'd rather Belladonna fill most of the noise space, um, to the point where if he didn't keep asking questions about it, it would feel almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's been a few years now that you've known each other. Several years that you've known each other, and it's never dropped from him. And he also doesn't ask the same questions. It's another thing that clocks how much he might be keeping as much as he can in his mind and on his pages. But you arrive at Vallaki to no fanfare at all. There's no like guards at the gate or anything like that. There's a big wall to it. Vallaki is arguably the citiest city in all of Barovia, far and away. It has festivals still, that are very like Vallaki centered, but it has festivals still. There are buildings that are clean, and there are guards that wander the street, and business hours and markets and everything. It's a noisy place by comparison to literally all of the rest of Barovia. It is where the most people live, and everything. And in that noise, there is a tension to it where everyone feels like they're not sure that they're going to wake up to the same city tomorrow. That this won't be here. This is the closest to normalcy for a population that exists in Barovia. And it still shuts down real quietly at night. The walls are still there. If you look, you can see the stains from the last wolf festival, where several wolves' heads had been up on pikes and, like dripped blood. You know that happens annually. That's not the time of year that it is right now. So, the knife at the throat of the pleasantry that is existing in a place like Vallaki, in a place like Barovia, is never forgotten by its population, and it is immediately in the air as you arrive kind of toward the evening. So you find an inn, something inexpensive. You stay there. Again, the difference, village of Barovia, not a lot of people exchanging a lot of money for everything. Vallaki, fully moneyed city. Like fully like innkeepers, people travel, they sometimes are full and stuff. And so it's very much there. Can I get you can choose survival, nature, or perception check from Belladonna?
I think I'm gonna want survival and double check here. That survival, nature, or perception?
Or perception, whatever's your highest stat.
Where's my mouse? Yeah, that's gonna be survival. I'll roll survival. Ooh, rolling feeling good today. It's a 22. Damn.
22. Would you say that Belladonna, before James, and then even while you've been in a relationship together, and he's had to go to Vallaki a few times, would you say Belladonna traveled to Vallaki very often? Did that like long travel, or did she mostly stay closer to home in the village?
Oh yeah, I bet she definitely traveled. She used it as an excuse to peddle her wares.
Mm,
As much as she likes experimenting with the meat and tending to the orchards, as far as the like business goes, that's her function in the business
mm.
is peddling this mead places, is using her overall wily charms to so I'm sure she's traveled plenty of times. Like I bet during the summer season where it's all harvesting and she doesn't really need to be there because stuff's just moving and they're not doing the like flavoring yet. Her bees aren't necessary. She probably travels like a festival circuit or something,
Hmm.
peddling her mead. So she wouldn't be unaccustomed to the city or to long travel.
With the 22, I think Belladonna clocks that there is a surprising amount of like late night guard appearance, like late night soldier appearance. There's usually some Vallaki has like city lanterns that are dimly lit through the night. And there's the staff that take care of that. And then there's usually a handful of walking around guards just patrolling the city. And then, of course, at the edges on the walls. And where usually you might see one or two um, walking through on sort of a pre-planned route, and you'd see them every couple hours or so if you stayed up all night. There's like six that are just kind of loosely distributed around the inn where you're staying in, including one that you might have clocked downstairs at one of the like large tables eating something or eating some food. Didn't mean anything at that time. Guards got to eat, right? And then then you saw another one like kind of walking back from one of the like smaller confectionery shops that you like to make sure to grab something from each time you're in Vallaki. And now as you kind of look out your little like room window on the third floor here of this inn, down through the uh, like foggied kind of brushed glass, you can absolutely see that there's about a half dozen or so guards sort of loosely distributed over the blocks kind of around and in sight of the inn from your viewpoint here as the night grows later.
Okay. So does this inn have a stable?
Yes. Yeah. So multi-story. Yeah,
Okay.
it's big enough.
I'm sure I've already schmoozed a little being Belladonna. I'm gonna pop by and just do a check-in with the bartender, chit chat for a second, and I'll offer to take the food scraps out because this has got to be around closing time, kitchen closing if it's late
Mm,
at night and I'm not sleeping. I'll take the food scraps out to the slop buckets or whatever near the stables,
mm.
and if she acquiesces or he or they or whomever is in charge of the food scraps, I will very specific. I'll make it very obvious that I'm leaving. I'll like wave bye. I'll make it very clear who I am, and I will see if they. I'll try to clock if they're watching me, in particular.
Yeah, give me a perception check with that. The woman at the bar does acquiesce. You've met her a few times. Like this isn't your first or even fourth interaction.
19.
And you are rolling pretty good. You don't see anything on her gaze as she like lets you walk out. It all feels very normal from her perspective or from your perspective on her. Um, when you walk out to kind of the stables and everything like that, the guards are there. With a 19 perception in general, you sort of like watching people. You see that the guards like clock you, but then quickly move off of you visually. So it doesn't seem like they care about you being out in the stables to kind of um, uh,
Did I catch any of them after looking at me, looking back up at the window, or did they look back
no,
straight ahead?
they moved to their they look at you as you kind of quickly surmise with there being multiple points of this. They looked at you because you exited the tavern or the inn at this time of night and you're a person. And then they quickly did not seem to be too invested in you in particular and go back to their normal sort of like facial and viewing behaviors where they kind of like glance about. Um,
Okay.
you feed or you pour in the slop into the troughs, and some of the like remaining foodstuffs, and you make your way back up to your room where James has been writing up some notes. But before you arrive to your room, Belladonna, you hear James's voice out loud, quietly speaking to someone, and the door to your room is gently open. It's not fully closed. When you left, you closed it, but it is gently open. It's only been a few minutes since you've stepped out to do this. But you can hear James speaking to someone. Does Belladonna be the type to just kind of continue walking and open the door and walk in to find whatever they find, or would you be the type to kind of more slowly creep up to it?
I think she would step more lightly, and partially not to be super abrupt and interrupt a conversation, give them some amount of privacy. Also, a little bit to snoop because it's very curious. There's someone in our tavern or in room at whatever 3 a.m. But she wouldn't like sit there and peek through the door, and she would, you know, gently open, but do so cautiously. I suppose it depends on how much attention they're paying.
Uh, you, as you're approaching to open the door, here, can make out and begin to be able to make out James. Yes, yes, I can. Yet, yes, sir, I can absolutely write something in a different vein of creativity. I appreciate um, you coming to me with this directly, uh, and you hear something that you've never heard in James's voice, which is a light amount of shakiness and something that maybe you've never heard it before is anxiety or fear or something. Like the bottom of his voice is cut out, like the lower tone of his voice is cut out. He's tightening his throat. He's also using formal language. As you open the door, you hear the response and you see the back of a person. It's just that it becomes so challenging. I know it kills the tension every time. So challenging. James, was it? I'm sorry, I haven't been familiarized with your work, but this came across my reading desk from one of my attendants, and it feels personal, and I just don't care for that. So I appreciate that you understand that I would not be pleased if more of this character's story or this type of literature and material would manage to distribute amongst the population, James. And you, Belladonna, for the first time, roughly about a year from when we are in the campaign, see the finely dressed cloak dressed over a shoulder of the back of a head, black hair, tall, striking form, but you're behind him. He's facing James. Facing James at this point. Strahd von Zarovich stands in your inn room. You also clock that the window is open. And James looks at Belladonna, like eyes just move to you. Give me a stealth check.
$11.
When James's eyes go to you, this man turns in a single frame. Like, not in the 30 or 60 frames per second where you see the movement continuously, but in fact goes from looking at James to 180 degrees looking at you in no ability to perceive the movement. It's just suddenly one way and then the other. And you are staring at Strahd von Zarovich. You know him on sight. Everyone in Barovia knows him on sight. But very few people, hopefully, ever get to see, like, interact with him in person. You've been Barovia born and raised and been in Barovia for your whole life. What is Belladonna's immediate reaction to being surprised by the Devil of Barovia in their hotel room?
That's really hard to say. I think the immediate instant first initial reaction is a total freeze. And potentially, yeah, I think it would be at first a total freeze, and then eye contact with James Percy, and if she got any inclination that he was like going to try to like move or like run in some sort, she would be prepared to also move. But otherwise, I think she would stay as perfectly still as long as he was still. She would be, I think, yeah, ultimately waiting for his cues, since this is his situation. He knows what's happening and she doesn't, I think, is what it lands on. She'd be waiting for
You get no, there's concern, but no physicality that implies that he plans to do anything quickly or make any quick motions. You don't recognize this in James, but you recognize it in people and animals and such. He's in the same position that you are, frozen by a level of shock and a level of fear that is high even in Barovia. And Strahd von Zarovich looks at you, Belladonna, and smiles. A smile that only exists on his mouth, nowhere else on his face. And he looks and he's like, "Oh, we have company. Hello. I don't believe that you're one of my subjects that I have met. Strahd von Zarovich, Lord of Barovia, of course. And he just gestures out a hand in the kind of classic way for you to touch it. Basically, not a handshake, but acknowledgement of his position. What is your name?
I feel like I honestly have to roll a constitution check to see if Belladonna is physically able to move or speak. Now, I don't think Belladonna is physically able to move or speak. I
He
think she's literally eye contact, just flicking between Strahd and James Percy.
eventually catching this on you. James Percy responds on your behalf. Uh, my, my lord, it sounds so unnatural to hear him say that. This is my wife, Belladonna. Oh, your wife, Belladonna, such a beautiful name. What's up?
No, I think she just that's her
Oh, okay.
first ability to move is
Yeah.
just
Such a beautiful name. So delightful that you joined your husband here on this trip. I can assure you that you can enjoy the rest of it. He's been very agreeable. Pleasure to meet you, Belladonna. I hope to be able to sample some of your mead one day. I'm on a cleanse right now, sort of a fluid diet, so it would be good to mix up what I consume. And I believe I've been told that the meadery that you and James live at or near is delicious. And then when you, with your hand raised, he zooms in again, single frame, so he is nose to like inches from your face, and he grabs your hand, and he grabs your hand, and then just like in the kind of courtly fashion goes to like lightly peck the top of your knuckles, and then he looks back at James. I look forward to your next offering. If you have any needs of distribution, feel free to reach out to me at the castle. We're almost neighbors. I'm so close. And then he moves around you. You can feel the movement on your body, but you cannot see him move around you. And then doesn't appear to actually leave out the hallway, but appears to dissipate out the window. And you and James Percy are left in this room.
I think like the second he stops touching her before he's even dissipated and there's any physical distance, she'd already be like physically skirting around the edge of the room
Mm.
towards JP. So she's probably over there beside him, watching in the same direction by the time he's
Yeah.
wafting out the window. It's not a graceful, like a scurry,
Yeah.
but a quick movement, though not organized.
The silence returns. James, once you get in reach of him, just like places a hand on your forearm, and he is shaking He looks up at you. Are, are you? Are you? Are you?
I think before he can even finish, she puts
Mm,
her arm around his shoulder, similar to how she stands behind him and puts
mm,
her hands on top of his shoulder. She puts one arm around his shoulder and another around his head and just like tries to hold him physically still. Sometimes when he is not afraid often,
mm.
but when he has nightmares or disturbed sleep, the shakes come so badly he just needs to be physically held to stop the tremoring. And I think that's what she does to kind of physically compress the anxiety down.
Give
It's a little tough to
me.
say anything.
Yeah, he doesn't. The moment you move into that position, it's almost a tacit like, yes, I'm okay because we're doing this. Insight check with advantage.
I don't need advantage. I swear, my hands are up. I can point it down. I got a nat 20.
I
I'll roll
believe
again to
you.
see how
Yeah.
good. I'm on a
Get
roll
get
today.
two nat
I am
20s.
actually using Belladonna's dice
There you
finally.
go. That's why.
That might be helpful.
Dice Christ has blessed you for being in alignment.
Dice Christ. No, not two natural 20s, just the
But
one natural 20. Dang.
you hold him. There's definitely the nerves. There's the fear. These are uncommon in James, but not completely unheard of. Then there's a part of him that maybe you're more familiar with. The shaking subsides, but is replaced by attention. You've only seen a couple of times where this man has actually raised his voice or been angry. Not out of like fear, not in a like a shout response, but like truly there. He'll rant,
Mm-hmm.
he'll write, he'll
Curse and carry
occasionally,
on.
yeah, curse and carry on, but he will not get angry. His body doesn't, it doesn't leave from his throat below. And perhaps with a nat 20 insight, the most worrying thing about all of this is not that Strahd von Sarovich visited you all in your room in an inn, not that he has now clocked James's writing and does not like it, not that the devil Strahd is aware of you, but now a man who cannot help but dig at every version of power has met the most dangerous thing in Barovia, the the end game of the of oppression, and his reaction is anger.
Mm.
James isn't from Barovia, and as much as you two are alike in many things, you've met people not from Barovia, and they all have this one failing, which is that they think, even if they're pretty good at accepting that some ways there's just the way the world operates and you just have to abide it, they all have that feeling like maybe they can shift the threads of reality, the laws of nature in this place, or that something they do will be the first time that something has ever worked. It was this night that leads us to the Belladonna that we meet in the campaign. It was this night that was the first showing of what Belladonna would soon adopt into herself. And this Belladonna doesn't understand how much this feeling of anger is going to be a part of her life going forward.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a burning flame.
Almost.
Might consume someone.
It
Oh
might.
no.
Oh
It
no.
might.
It
It
might.
might. Oh
But
dear.
we leave here in this beautiful time with the a scene external from this of just two people balancing and caring for each other, and as specifically in this moment Belladonna supporting a person as their worldview is challenged, rocked, and they are there. And we leave this time to sort of the beginning of the end for for Belladonna and James. And we will return next time with you, Betty Buzzsaw, back in the real world. When you get to come back, I mean, there's a little bit of a witch problem right now, but after the witch problem, get to go back to Vallaki, probably for the first time since the last time you were there, which was this time.
Yeah. Every time is the first time since the last time I was there.
I mean,
Crazy enough.
technically, that is how the language implies, but just
I
to,
got what you mean.
I
I
know you
got
did.
it.
I know you did. Uh, if people want to find you, Betty Buzzsaw, everyone else I can just give a social media tag to and everything and wrap these things up. But if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me with the bluebirds, the pretty bluebirds.
And you can, of course, find us here. Hopefully, immediately after this session, there'll be another session with one of the other players of a one-on-one of a nice little flashback scene to their life before the campaign. But until that time, we will be back live again on the back half of May. Thank you so much for joining me and giving some greater context to the audience for the kind of life you had before you were like a hot, scary witch that was both threatening and just like a little bit weirder from everything that happened.
Yeah. Before I was a hot, scary witch, I was a cute, not scary farm girl. I guess that's really what it boils down to.
It
I
kind of,
can't
I
really
mean,
frame
you're
it that way.
Barovian, so you're still a bit haunting,
So,
but it's in scale, right? But like much sweeter. But until then,
spooky farm girl.
spooky farm
Love 'em.
girl, goals. But until then, we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And